Welcome to yet another FPL live stream, and like I said the other day, the turnaround is just so quick, and already on a Tuesday at 3:30, we're already preparing our teams because the deadline's at 4:30, so let's get all of this done. And I know some of the questions are going to be coming up, Bruno or KDB, Kufa or KWP, to start and stuff like this. And to be honest, I mean, they're all tough calls, but I'll be offering my opinion on them. And I invite all of you to offer your own opinions, even if they're different to mine. And yeah, well, hopefully another great week of football, unless you're an Arsenal fan. But I'll try quickly go through everyone who's already been put in some chats, and I really appreciate everyone waiting. And yeah, let's go. Thank you at all. You've been waiting for a long time. I remember you commenting earlier, and I really appreciate it. Kyle Naidu says, I have no City midfielders or strikers, only one defender. Hope it doesn't cost me. Yeah, that's the thing with City, especially when they have West Brom at home. And let's be real, you don't want to watch them if you have none of their attacking assets. But there can be rotation there. I'm not saying there will be. So yeah, just hoping that West Brom can somehow limit them maybe to fewer goals. But it's going to be easier said than done. And yeah, to be honest, I'm in the exact same situation. I didn't bring in KDB, and that was a conscious decision on my part. I could still bring him in on a -4 from, let's say, Salah, and then do the switch again. But I'm not too sure about that. And you know what? I'll probably be keeping things as they are. And I'll be in the same boat as you with one City defender. Let's see if Diaz even starts. And yeah, we'll see how it all plays out. 22 people here. Thank you, everyone who has joined in. Yeah, same for me as well. Only Diaz. I can only have one of Bruno or KDB. And like Dylan, I got to go with KDB. Well, to be honest, and that's a great segue into the main discussion of this video, obviously, apart from me locking in my team and answering your questions. KDB or Bruno. Now, I always say this. If you want to bring one of them in for the long term, I would say Bruno. But for this week, in terms of explosive potential and, double-digit hauls, maybe 20 plus points, I do think KDB is probably the more exciting pick. However, like I said in my last video, I would still probably go for Bruno. Now, I'm not saying that KDB is a bad pick, because he definitely isn't, and I would be tempted to captain him, but I don't know, there's something about Bruno, he's just so consistent, and all the statistics that I keep on reading out every single week, the most points since he's joined the Premier League, but not just that, since game week 8, he's got 47 points, I believe, and second, I think, is Salah with 37, so there's a big difference at the moment, but KDB has slowly but surely, earned his way back into the top FPL assets of this season. And you know what, that West Brom game, it could be a 20-pointer. I won't lie to you. Who do I keep first on my bench? KWP or Kufal? Have Cancelo, so most probably one of those two will come on from the bench. That's a good point. And I've got the exact same situation. And I mean, I'm not going to tell you something that I don't believe. At the moment, I know Arsenal are a shambles. I mean, I've seen them plenty this season, too much. But yeah, KWP, I think he can do very well. And if Diaz doesn't play, for example, I'd be happy for him coming in. But Kufal against Palace at home, I'm not saying that Arsenal are going to turn things around for sure. And Southampton are a better team than Palace and also West Ham. But yeah, I don't know. I just prefer Kufal. And I think West Ham can get a clean sheet here. I'm not saying they definitely will. I know Palace have scored 6 in the last 2 games, but 5 came against 10 men West Brom. So yeah, I would edge for Kufal slightly. But in terms of recent form, yeah, Palace are definitely better than Arsenal. I mean, 14 teams in the league are better than Arsenal at the moment. I have the same dilemma. I prefer Kufal this week. I completely agree, Magnussen, and that's just the thing I feel. I mean, I'm not trying to be biased. I'm an Arsenal fan, but I know that Arsenal are really bad, one of the worst teams. And to be honest, they're the worst team in the division at the moment in terms of form. But I don't know, I just prefer Kufal this week. It's as simple as that. I don't think I would bench Zuma in my case, or Diaz. So KWP, pretty happy with him being first on my bench. But yeah, I mean, you'd expect, maybe a clean sheet in that game against Arsenal, but you can't have everyone. And I'm not going to bench one of my midfielders or strikers, even if their fixtures are relatively tough. What does RCM in Dylan RCM stand for? Well, they're just initials from, surnames and stuff like that and family. But that's pretty much it. So there's not too much there. I preferred Kufal too, but you never know with Arsenal these days. Well, that's the thing. I mean, they could turn up against the likes of United, and I know United are very inconsistent. And Arsenal, they were doing very well up until August, winning 2 trophies in a month, and then beating Liverpool, obviously in the league last season, and then doing in the Community Shield, And even in the Cups, they've won every single game in the Carabao Cup and Europa League, but the opposition is just not the same. And in the Premier League, it just looks so dysfunctional, and I think players are downing tools, and that's unacceptable, to be honest. A Jota for Greenwood. To be honest, I mean, Greenwood was someone I was considering at the beginning of the season, but seeing how things have turned out, I personally wouldn't do that move. And I always say this to people, with Jota, in terms of moving him on to someone else, I'd probably go for the likes of Grealish if you can afford him, if not Zaha. And preferably, I mean, as you can see with my midfield structure, the likes of Salah, Son, KDB, Bruno, trying to get some of those players in, and maybe Grealish could be your cheapest option. But if not, if you don't have the funds, I know a lot of you have been talking about Bowen and Fornals, and I haven't been too keen on them, but that's not to say they're bad options. I think they could also be better replacements for Jota than Greenwood, and they have a double game week coming up, West Ham, so maybe you could go in that direction, but personally, I wouldn't do that. So yeah, I would try to get funds from elsewhere and use that to upgrade Jota to, more premium assets. Thoughts on my team? McCarthy, Chilwell, James, Lamptey, Grealish, Fernandes vice-captain, De Bruyne captain, Salah, Calvert-Lewin, Bamford, Watkins. To be honest, that's a very good team. You've got two of the best captaincy options of the week. And even though Bruno, you could captain him instead. I mean, De Bruyne has that explosive potential. He's playing West Brom. So you know what? I really like that team. Great fixtures. I think Lamptey should play. And yeah, I expect a lot of points from you. The only thing is obviously with your defence, you're mainly relying on Chelsea. But against Wolves, who do look a bit toothless in attack, especially without Raul Jimenez, you know what? I think that is likely. So I do like your team very much. McCarthy could do very well against Arsenal, and your midfield and attack speaks for itself. The only player I would kind of have doubts about in the long term is Watkins, but over the next few, I think he can do very well. It's just Watkins isn't someone I'm too convinced about, and he's the only one I'd maybe look at and say, but the fixture he has is very good. He's got Burnley at home, so yeah, I really like that team. I already made the UCL team, yeah, Ninad, but to be honest, I mean, yeah, the fixtures are out now, and I will be doing something there, but I'm not too concerned with UCL Fantasy at the moment, and with the amount of games coming up in FPL, yeah, UCL Fantasy is at the back of my thoughts right now, but obviously things will change. Captain KDB or Fernandes, as I keep on saying, so KDB has the more explosive potential, and if you back him to start, then go with him, but personally, what I would do if I had both, I think I would go for Fernandes. The most points since game week 8, the most points since he has joined the league, he's got the most goals, even from open play, and let's be honest, Kevin De Bruyne hasn't scored a goal from open play this season, and I'm not saying he won't today, I'm not saying he won't in the future, but I just think Bruno's more reliable. He's never blanked away from home, and he's facing Sheffield, who are also a very poor team, one of the worst teams in the division, and to be honest, they are the worst team. They've got 1 point, so yeah. Welcome, Mr. Kinsler. Thank you for joining in once again. Wilson or Cavallero, Fulham? Whom should I play? Wilson, I think. I know Cavallero is posting some good stats, and I know he's been doing pretty well recently, but he's not a reliable goal scorer. Wilson is the closest thing around his price bracket to a reliable goal scorer that you're going to get, along with Bamford, so I would go for Wilson. Thoughts on Mendy, City, and Giroud starting? Well, I mean, I wish I could tell you for sure. I think Giroud will start. As for Mendy, I'm not sure because it depends how Pep's going to play it. They've got a very tough game at the weekend against Southampton, so maybe they're going to rest some players today, and the likes of Mendy will start at left back, and then against Southampton, Cancelo and Walker will be the fullbacks. So I think Giroud will start. Mendy, I'm not so sure, but it ultimately depends on Pep's roulette. Salah out for Mahrez? I don't think so. I know the fixture's very appealing, but I wouldn't do that. If I were to get rid of Salah for 1 week or two, it would be for KDB and nothing else. I wouldn't do it for Mahrez. And to be fair, Mahrez has scored all of his goals at home, and he's very explosive. This is the type of game where he can get the points you want. But personally, I wouldn't make that move. It's very risky. I captain Sterling. Will I captain Sterling or Fernandes? I'd definitely captain Fernandes, but it's up to you. Sterling has been a bit off it this season, but this could be a game where he transforms his season, but I would still go for Fernandes, definitely. Grealish plus Mahrez to KDB and Lookman, a good move. Already have Salah, Bruno, Kane, DCL and Wilson. I mean, you've got 3 strikers who are pretty good. You've got Salah, Bruno, and you would have KDB. I'm not sure who your other midfielder would be. I'm guessing it would be Lookman as well. I wouldn't want to have Lookman as a midfielder, a starting midfielder. I'd want him to come in from time to time if I had him. And to be honest, losing Grealish, especially with his next 2 fixtures, is a bit rough. I personally wouldn't do those moves, and Mahrez could be decent enough cover for this game, but yeah, in the long term, I would try to keep Grealish, get rid of Mahrez. But you have a good team anyway, it seems. But yeah, Lookman in your starting lineup quite consistently, I'm not too sure. Welcome, Aslan, and hopefully Arsenal win tomorrow. I mean, at this point, I don't know where the goals are going to come from, let alone wins. Start Lamptey or Justin? To be honest, I would start Lamptey, and I think, yeah, Graham Potter did speak recently, and he said that Lamptey is training and he could play. So I would go for Lamptey for sure. I'm not too sure about James Justin for this fixture. Where's Alba? Well, I mean, he's not scoring goals. I mean, he's scoring on the wrong side of things. But yeah, Aubameyang, hopefully he turns things round. But yeah, I'm never getting him in my FPL team again. I had him for the first 2 game weeks, believe it or not, and his form since then has just dipped massively. Thoughts on selling Son for Rashford? Only got 9.5 million to spend. No, I wouldn't do that. I know this fixture is very appealing for Rashford and Man United, but Son is a far better asset this season, at least so far, than Rashford, so I wouldn't do that. And especially if you don't have Kane, losing Son as well, you're just... even if this fixture you're not going to be punished, in the long term I think Son could punish you, so I wouldn't do that personally, unless you plan to bring him back and you don't have much value tied in and you've got enough free transfers and you're very happy with your team, then you could chase that fixture and kind of get those points from Rashford. But overall I wouldn't recommend that move, especially in the long term. If you could pick one ahead of Game Week 16, would you keep Son or remove him and get Kane? Yeah, this is something I've been discussing in the past few videos. Should we have Kane? Should we have Son? Should we have both? Should we have none of them? In my opinion, having at least one of them is fundamental, and keeping 2 is better than having 0. So if you're asking me who would I pick between Kane and Son, I'll be real, I'm not too sure about that, to be honest, because it depends on who you can get in for their respective positions. For Son, I would obviously love to upgrade him to KDB, but in order to do that, unfortunately, I would have to get rid of Kane also. So then I look and I think, you know what? And Son gets the extra point for scoring a goal. He gets the point for a clean sheet. And I look at all of these factors and I think, you know what? I'd probably still be happier with Son than with Kane. But Kane is just so consistent. He's blanked twice this season. But then again, you could move him to Danny Ings. You could move him to Callum Wilson. Maybe Watkins if you want Che Adams. There's a few more options, I think. Because with midfielders, if I'm being honest, at least personally, from Son, I wouldn't want to go to Rashford. I've already got Bruno for that. I would only want to go to KDB. And so I would probably edge for Son, but especially for the Leicester fixture, I have to say, I think Kane is the one you want to have. So that's why it's very difficult to give you an outright answer. I would say Son overall, but I would want to have both of them, to be honest, at the moment anyway. Let's keep on going. So should I bench Kyle Walker-Peters, Kufal or Eiling this week? I would bench Eiling, I think, but actually, to be fair, he's got a great fixture. I would probably bench Kyle Walker-Peters, to be fair. But Leeds have been very poor defensively. That's the only thing I'll say. But Eiling has a bit of attacking potential. But yeah, it's up to you. I mean, if you don't really rate Arsenal, I mean, I don't. But I mean, if you really think Southampton are going to get a clean sheet, then just play him over Eiling. That's why I think. Mendy, Chilwell, Taylor, Konsa, KDB, Bruno, Grealish, Salah, Bamford, Kane, DCL. I really like that team. I know that Burnley aren't as good as they were last season. And I don't trust their defence. I know they got a clean sheet just now, but it's against a poor team. So the only problem I would have with the team you just mentioned is maybe the double Chelsea defence, but you can't really help it. You've got the keeper, you've got Chilwell. And then I look at Taylor. Not too sure about him. Ideally, I'm just saying this. I'm not saying change your team and do this just because I prefer it. But ideally, from Aston Villa defence, I would just have Martinez in goal. And instead of Taylor, I'd try get someone else. Probably a Southampton defender. I know the fixtures are very tough, but I'd rather have a Southampton defender than Taylor. But apart from that, it's a very good team. I really like it. Would you start Lamptey or Justin? I'd definitely start Lamptey, as I said before. Definitely would go with Lamptey. I have team value of 105 million plus, so I could afford all of the big hitters. Yeah, but the thing is with trying to, force in all of these big hitters, you don't want to unbalance your team because you want to have a decent defense, because even though defense isn't going to give you as much points as your midfield and attack, you want to have balance, because some days your midfielders and attackers are going to blank and you need others to fill in. So try to make sure that you don't destabilize your team and you have a good all-round 11 and maybe 1 or 2 good options from the bench. And at the moment, I'll be honest, I've only got Kyle Walker-Peters, but with the moves I made for this week, so Ruben Dias and Bamford in, I actually now have 0.8 million in the bank to spend, and I could go from Kilman to a 4.9 million defender, and if not, do Zuma to Reece James, get that extra 0.1 million, and have a bit more, threat from crosses and stuff like that from Reece James and assist potential, and then upgrade Kilman to Dyer. So that's why I think it's very important to have a good all-round squad. And, I still got 4 premium players, technically, if you count Son as one. And, I just have to say, be careful with that. But, you know what? The more big hitters, obviously, the merrier. Just be careful with the balance. Risk playing Lamptey. If he doesn't play, Cresswell comes in, or just go with Cresswell. I'd risk Lamptey because, like I said, Graham Potter, he said, did I even say his name right? Anyway, Potter, he said that Lamptey is training and he could play. So I think it's worth the risk for sure. And of course, if it doesn't go right, if he comes on as a substitute, then obviously, that's not ideal, but I would risk it. Will Walker start? That's the thing. If you're asking me personally, I think Man City will rotate a bit, and I think Walker could be one of them. And Southampton's a very big game. But then again, after Southampton, Man City have Arsenal in the Carabao Cup quarter-final, I believe. So maybe Pep might rest players in the Southampton game. I know that sounds very weird, but he does take the Carabao Cup very seriously. So it's very difficult to predict Pep. It's like the Da Vinci Code. But Walker is potentially going to be rested, but I'm not sure. I couldn't be able to tell you for sure. I think he'll play against Southampton, and because of that, maybe he's going to be benched today. That's my opinion. Justin or Kufal, which one to bench? I would start Kufal and bench Justin. Justin has the tougher fixture. He's facing Calvert-Lewin. That's not to say that Leicester can't keep a clean sheet. I know they were very good last week, and when you see Justin get 11 points, it's so hard to bench him, but I would still probably go for Kufal. That's me personally. Back your gut, definitely. If you had De Bruyne, would you pick KDB or Fernandes? That's a very good question, thank you. I've said this, I think even weeks ago. I would still go for Bruno, and I said this today as well. But I would be tempted by KDB, and if I had a feeling he would start, and I thought he would, just completely go mad and, City win 5-0 or whatever, and he gets 3 goal involvements, of course I'm going to probably captain him. But in terms of reliability and consistency, I just prefer Bruno, so I'd probably still go for him. But it's still, pretty much a 51-49 decision to make, so it's a very tough one. Mahrez in for Jota. For this game week, yeah, but in the long term, I just don't like Mahrez, I'll be honest, because he's just so... It's a bit like Watkins, who I've given maybe a bit of slack recently. They get most of the points in these 2 games, and apart from that, they just don't deliver in all of the others. You want a bit more consistency, especially for someone around 8.4, 8.5 million. So for this game week, I think that's a good move, but overall, I just prefer having, KDB if you want City cover that badly. And if not, try to get Son. Maybe even Rashford could be a better, more consistent pick. So yeah, it's a tough one. McCarthy versus Arsenal or Ryan versus Fulham? I would go for Ryan versus Fulham, but then again, I think Southampton are better defensively than Brighton, and Arsenal right now are really toothless. And I'm not trying to be woke, but at the moment, Fulham are a better team than Arsenal. But of course, football's a funny game. Maybe next week Arsenal turn up, or should I say tomorrow, and it's kind of back to normal. Arteta gets things rolling again. So I would go for Ryan, but it's up to you. Thank you, Raul. I really appreciate your comment. I'm very flattered. Thank you very much. Invest in Diaz for Dallas or go Brewster to Bamford. Have Wilson and want to transfer him out in 2 game weeks. To be honest, it depends on the rest of your team. So I don't know what your defense is, your midfield and attack, Lawrence, but I like that Brewster to Bamford move because at least with Dallas, he's going to play. With Brewster, he gets substituted a lot, and let's be real, Sheffield aren't scoring goals overall, and Brewster isn't really an option. So I would prefer doing Brewster to Bamford, but having Diaz, of course, especially for this game week, is very tempting. So as much as I want to say Diaz, I would probably go for the Bamford move. You say you do have Wilson, which is fair enough, and you want to transfer him out in 2 game weeks, so you'd probably want Bamford anyway, so that kind of covers it. So yeah, I'd definitely go for the Bamford move. Diaz or Maguire? Already have Mendy. I'd go for Diaz still. Man United defensively aren't that good. I know they just kept a clean sheet, but that game was so boring. Both teams just didn't... I wouldn't say they didn't want it enough, but they didn't show enough quality in that game. I just prefer Diaz. I think City are going to keep more clean sheets this season. Diaz is nailed, and when you have him and Mendy, chances are you're going to have at least one of them start and get that City clean sheet if, they do get it and Mendy doesn't play, for example. Bruno or KDB for captain? As I keep on saying, I'd probably go for Bruno, but KDB is very tempting, so it's up to you what you think is going to happen this week. I think Bruno's the safer pick, and that's why I'd go for him, but you can't go wrong with either. Hi there, bench one of DCL, Bowen, Bamford, Wilson. Thanks. Oh my god, that's a tough one. Um, I mean, I don't want to sound harsh, but I think I'd probably bench Bowen. And I know that sounds crazy, and I'm not saying he can't score. That's a very tough decision between the four, but I just prefer DCL. I think he's more reliable. Bamford as well, and Wilson. But to be fair, yeah, it'd be between Wilson or Bowen, and I'd probably bench Bowen, but yeah, that's a tough one. I'm looking to get a City defender for Justin. Who do you fancy? Thank you for the question, Tongdi. I would go for Diaz, as I did. So I had the same situation as you. I wanted City cover. And I looked at it and I thought, Cancelo's the most exciting pick. If he plays, I would obviously want him. But he's rotating at left back and right back. So that already kind of removes him from the equation, at least for now. Stones is very, very interesting at 4.8 million. And I believe he's like 0.2% owned. And he's someone I'm looking at. But if you want someone nailed, the closest thing you're going to get to that from City defence is Diaz. So I would go for him if you have the money. But of course, he's a boring pick. He gets these 5 pointers, these 6 pointers. Sometimes he's going to get 1 or 2 points or 0 from yellow cards and stuff like that. But I think in terms of being nailed, that's very important. From FPL assets, you want players who are going to start every single week. And Diaz, he's the closest thing to that. So I'd go for him. Is it a good choice to remove Robertson for Dallas in order to keep Kane or to get Kane in place of Werner? To be honest, like I said before, Leeds, I don't like their defense, but Dallas is very attacking. And going from Werner to Kane, in my opinion, is a huge upgrade. So I wouldn't do that this week, by the way. But maybe for next week when Kane has Leicester, I would definitely make that move. So yeah, I do like that move, and I would suggest making it. Even though obviously Robertson to Dallas, can't even speak. Robertson to Dallas isn't a downgrade. I don't know. I still think that's a better move. Having Werner, he just wastes too many chances, and Kane is just in the form of his life at the moment. So yeah, I'd definitely do that. Ryan, Walker, Chilwell, Reguilon, Rafinha, Bruno, KDB, Captain, Grealish, Salah, Adams, Watkins. Your thoughts? I like that team, but overall, I'm just saying this going forward, the likes of Ryan, maybe you could get a better keeper in. Reguilon's a good pick, to be fair. Rafinha, he's a bit of an exciting pick, but he's not going to be very consistent and reliable. And in midfield, as you can see from my 4, I really like going for those who are kind of proven, the ones who are getting points every 2 or 3 games at least. So yeah, those are the only problems I would say. Maybe Watkins as well. I would prefer having Bamford in there instead of at least Adams or Watkins. But I do like the team overall. Should I start Justin or Lamptey? Like I said before, I'm going to keep saying this, Lamptey. Definitely start Lamptey, the fixture. I think he's going to play. I wouldn't guarantee you that. I wouldn't be able to, but I would go for Lamptey. Do you think Watkins would have a good game week, or should I start Kufal or KWP? Well, as much as I don't like Watkins as an asset, I think that he is kind of due to score a goal. And I always prefer going for the attacker over the defender, no matter what the situation. So I would start Watkins over both of them. And if it's between Kufal and KWP, I would still go for Kufal, as I said before. But I always back the attacker over the defender. Therefore, I'd probably go for Watkins, but it's at your own risk. He's very inconsistent, and Kufal maybe could get the clean sheet, maybe KWP as well. So Diaz nailed on to start. Maybe not for this game week, but overall I think he's the most nailed on City defender, and that's why I got him in. So if he doesn't play, I've got KWP to come in. So I'm not going to say he's definitely starting this week, but overall he's going to start 90% of games. Will Diaz start every week? Yeah, just literally how I just said now. I think he's going to play the majority of the games. He's going to get rested from time to time, maybe even today. But the point with him is, you know, if you want someone who's going to play consistently, you're not going to have too many headaches compared to Cancelo, Walker, Stones, Laporte. You know what? Diaz is your guy. That's my opinion. Martinez, Kufal, Chilwell, Lamptey, Van Aanholt, Souček, KDB, Salah, Bruno, Son, Watkins, Bamford, Brewster. 2.1 million in the bank. Transfer advice for next few weeks. Thinking of getting rid of PVA for sure. Tips? Yeah, I definitely agree, IGN. I would definitely get rid of PVA. And with 2.1 million in the bank, it's very tempting to go to Robertson maybe, but I wouldn't do that. I would probably go to I think you're missing a Southampton defender, so I'd maybe go to Vestergaard, and then you'd have, I believe, around 2.7 million or something like that. And with that money, you could upgrade Brewster. You could maybe go to a Wilson or something, or Che Adams, or maybe go from Watkins to DCL or to Ings. So there's a lot of options you could go there. And I do like your team. Your midfield 4 is very good. Souček's a bit of a headache because you don't know when he's going to get the points. You're probably going to be benching him at the wrong times. But you know what? I'd probably upgrade one of your strikers and downgrade Van Aanholt to a Vestergaard or something like that, or maybe a Kyle Walker-Peters. Who is the best Jota replacement? It depends on your budget, Ahmed, but I would probably say Grealish if you don't have him already. I know he's 7.8 million now. He's a bit more on the expensive side. If not, there's Zaha. And if you're looking at the more, budget kind of options, maybe you could go for Bowen. Although I personally wouldn't go for it. He is probably one of the better options around 6-7 million. So I'd probably go for him. And ideally, you'd want to make funds from elsewhere and get the likes of Son, Fernandes, Salah, KDB in your midfield. But for Jota, it's a very difficult one. Because at his price, he was offering such great value when he was playing. But it is what it is. Kane or Son for the long run? As I said before, I'd probably say Son, but that's only because with Kane, I think I could go to an Ings. I could go to, I don't know, maybe a Wilson again, although I probably won't do that. There's a few other options up front that I could go for. And in terms of moving Son, I would only want to do it to KDB. But in order to make that move, I would have to get rid of Salah or Fernandes or Kane anyway. So that's why I'd probably go for Son. But that's in my case. Maybe your team structure is a bit different. It allows you to have more options. I think Kane's more consistent. Son's more explosive, but he offers better value for money. So yeah. Could you please do a wildcard team video after this game week? So I'm guessing that's for game week 14. I will definitely consider it if you do want it. Thank you for that, Kyle. I appreciate the feedback. What about Rashford? I think he's a great differential for the next few game weeks, but I'm looking at it this way. If you want to chase kind of, the fixtures, then you could do Son to Rashford, as someone said earlier. But in the long term, I just think that Bruno is the one you want to have from United, and Rashford is fairly inconsistent. And when you have Son for around the same price as Rashford, you don't want to do, Rashford to Son, or should I say Son to Rashford, and, just keep him. I wouldn't do that, even if the fixtures are greater for United. And, yeah, to be honest, I'm not saying you shouldn't go for him, but I personally wouldn't do it. At least not for the long term. Maybe for a game week or two, fair enough. But after that, no chance. Definitely not. I think there's better options in midfield. Who in for Jota have 7.9 million in the bank, thinking about Mount? Well, Philip, I'm not sure if you have Grealish already, but if you don't, definitely go for him, like I said. And if not, you could go for Zaha. I know the fixtures are tough, but I prefer Zaha over most options. And if not, maybe make a bit more money and try get Son, Bruno, Salah, KDB. I know it's very difficult, and it depends. Maybe you have strikers that you really like Kane or Vardy. But sometimes it has to be done and you have to prioritise. But if you don't have Grealish, definitely him. That was, for me, it would be a no-brainer. Hugh Wizzy, captain Aubameyang in FPL this week, got 0 points. To be honest, I don't know why he did that. I mean, I know he's an Arsenal fan, but ever since Game Week 2, I got rid of him, and the plan was always to get KDB in Game Week 3. I never wanted Aubameyang back, and any Arsenal player, I keep on saying this. I know after we beat Man United, I was still saying, I know Bellerin looks decent at times in terms of FPL, but I just don't see any value from them. And captaining Aubameyang, I mean, he's playing for fun, obviously, but I would never do that. That's what I'm saying. Diaz or James? If this is to start this game week, I would go for Diaz. But if this is long term and you don't have a Chelsea defender, I would probably still go for Reece James because of that attacking potential. And Chelsea are still one of the best teams defensively. That would be my answer. Who would you start out of Robbo, Dallas, and Lamptey for this game week? In terms of the fixture, if you're looking at the fixture purely, I would bench Robertson. But Spurs are the type of team where they are, very happy with taking a 0-0 at Anfield. They're coached by Mourinho after all. So maybe, I don't know, a clean sheet at Anfield would be a bit weird. But then again, Atalanta went there and kept a clean sheet. So you never know. Dallas and Lamptey definitely have the better fixtures. I'd definitely start Lamptey. Then it's between Robertson and Dallas. I don't trust Leeds defensively. So maybe because of that, I'd go for Robertson. But looking at it purely fixture-wise, definitely go for Dallas. Who should start, Justin or Taylor? Let me see, actually. I have to admit, Taylor's got Aston Villa. Yeah, let's look at these fixtures. Yeah, to be honest, I would still go for Justin, but that's a really tough one. I don't like either of them this week, but I'd probably still go for Justin. Should I take a hit for Chilwell to Diaz? Worth it? Thank you. Thank you, Faris, for your question. I wouldn't take a hit for a defender, especially when you're going from Chilwell to Diaz, because Diaz, as much as he is a bit of a threat from set pieces, he hasn't scored yet, and you're mainly relying on a clean sheet and maybe bonus points, because otherwise, what if Chilwell keeps a clean sheet? You're going to be losing points, so I wouldn't do the hit. If it was a straight move and you already have a Chelsea defender, then I would say yes, which is what I did basically. But for a hit, yeah, I wouldn't do that. Dallas or Chilwell bench? I don't know if you have another Chelsea defender playing. If you don't, I would go for Chilwell in your starting lineup and I would bench Dallas. If not, then just start Dallas maybe. If you have Zuma or Reece James in your defence, then yeah, you could bench Chilwell. Otherwise, no. Definitely start Chilwell. Vestergaard or Reece James? I have Zuma. Oof. In that case, maybe Vestergaard, but Reece James with that attacking potential, that's very interesting. And if Giroud starts, I think that it keeps on increasing Reece James's appeal. So yeah, I would probably go for Vestergaard because you have Zuma already, but Reece James, you know what? You could go for that double up in defence. It's up to you. I mean, do you think Wolves' attack is worse than Arsenal's? At the moment, I think Arsenal have a much worse attack. But if it starts clicking and Arsenal have a bit of luck as well, then yeah, you never know. So it's a tough one. It's a really tough one. Cresswell or Lamptey? I would start Lamptey definitely. But I know Fulham have been good recently. But I don't know. I'd still go for Lamptey. The attacking potential he plays so far up. So yeah, I'd go for him. Would you bench Kyle Walker-Peters or Wilson? I'd bench Kyle Walker-Peters. Like I said, I always go for the attacker over the defender. But yeah, Kyle Walker-Peters can get a clean sheet for sure. I'm not ruling it out, but I'd start Wilson. Let's see. Okay, I'll try to get through these quickly, just so I'm not too far behind. Ryan, Robertson, Kufal, Lewis, KDB, Bruno, Grealish, Mahrez, DCL, Bamford, and Wilson. Now the thing is, I got Kyle Walker-Peters and Son on the bench. Who should I sub out for Heung-min Son? I mean, that is a tough one. I mean, I would have said Lewis, but you've only got two defenders anyway. So, in my opinion, I would actually bench Lewis for Kyle Walker-Peters, definitely, because Newcastle just aren't great defensively. Now, I might be wrong. Maybe Lewis ends up getting the clean sheet, so back your gut there. But personally, if you're asking me, I would go for Walker-Peters over Lewis. Now, if you really want to get Son in, unfortunately, you have to bench one of your midfielders, and it definitely won't be KDB or Bruno. I'm not going to be saying that. I wouldn't bench Grealish. I mean, benching Mahrez against West Brom, as much as I don't rate him this season as an FPL asset, I don't know, that might be a bit foolish. DCL, Bamford and Wilson, that's a tough one. Maybe Wilson. I'd probably go for him, but do you expect Son to score at Anfield? I mean, that's the question you have to ask yourself ultimately, and you have to compare these players, the fixture they have, the form, and then make a decision. But I would probably go for Son over Wilson and Kyle Walker-Peters over Lewis. Thoughts on Stones? Almost certainly nailed on for the time being. 4.8 million for somebody who offers the same as Diaz and a bit of bonus point magnet. Maybe a consideration for the short term? I completely agree, Zucci, but the problem with Stones overall is that he's not nailed in the long term. But in the short term, as you say, he's a fantastic option and a great differential. And I think Pep, he really rates John Stones. He keeps on giving him chances. He is a bit error prone and he is injury prone, but when he's clicking, Stones is a decent defender. So I would say it's worth taking the risk if you have squad depth. But if you only have 3 or 4 options, then maybe not. 4 options, you could get away with it. But if you have 3 options, really, and Stones is one of them, I would say no. I wouldn't go for him. I'd try to go for Diaz instead. I know they offer very similar in terms of, what they're going to give, because you're mainly relying on clean sheet points. But yeah, Stones is very intriguing. Like I said, I might actually go from Kilman to Stones. And if he gets benched, he just gets benched for one of my other defenders who I'm pretty confident in. So yeah, that's how I'm looking at it. Do we get wildcard twice a season? You do, Ninad. You get one for the first half of the season. So I believe it's before game week 18 or 19. And then after that, you get another one. But you can't stack up wildcards. So if you don't use one for the first half of the season, it's not like you have 2 when the second one refreshes. That means you've burned that wildcard and you no longer have it, and you will only have 1 more for the remainder of the season. Is it just me, but I do not like my captain to be playing first, as if he blanks, there goes my week. But going to make an exception for the next 2 game weeks and captain KDB this week and Salah the next. That's a very good point, Gemma. But to be fair, what if he does very well and, you've got the confidence for the week? But then again, I mean, it's all out of your control, basically. I mean, you're picking a team and, of course, you're in control of that. But ultimately, how they perform is out of your control. It's a bit like being a manager in real life. Of course, it's very different. But yeah, I mean, I understand completely. I prefer having someone playing on the second day, maybe. Yeah, I wouldn't. When you're choosing your captain, I wouldn't think too much about that. I would just pick who you think is going to get the most points this week. I'm not trying to sound too generic or boring, but that's just how I see it. So Yeah, KDB is still a fantastic option. In my opinion, he's the best this week along with Bruno. So yeah, I would definitely go for him as you are doing, and good luck. Son out, Rashford in. I've been asked this before, pay one, and like I said, for this game week, that's fair enough. If you don't have a lot of money tied into Son, you got him in, basically when he's 9.6 million, 9.5, and you're only losing maybe a 0.1 million, 0.2, then yeah, you could do that. But ultimately, especially if you don't have Kane, you're going to want him back, because as much as Leicester are a good team, Spurs can do very well against them, against Wolves. And let's be real, Spurs have been a very good team this season. They are fixture-proof, and the likes of Son and Kane are carrying them. They are absolutely carrying them. So he's much more reliable, he's much more explosive than Rashford. So maybe for 1 or 2 game weeks, or maybe 3, go for Rashford. But after that, you're going to want Son back. And if you're asking me long-term who's the better option, as I keep on saying, there's no debate, Son's the better choice. But for maybe 1 or 2 weeks, fair enough, Rashford. Play Martinez versus Burnley or McCarthy against Arsenal, what do you think? And should I swap March for Souček? I would definitely say Martinez, but be aware that, like I kept pointing out in my last video yesterday, Martinez's home form and Villa's home form is very poor. So I can understand why you want to go for McCarthy. Also, Arsenal are so toothless in attack, as we keep on saying. But I would go for Martinez still. And should I swap March for Souček? If you don't have any other transfers to make, maybe if you have 2 and you don't want to burn one, then you could do that. I think it's an upgrade. The only problem, as I keep on saying with Souček, is that if you're benching him most of the time, you're probably going to have some, occasions where he's getting 9 points on your bench, and that's very frustrating. But in terms of when you have injuries or suspensions or rotation, the best, in my opinion, the best fifth midfielder you can get, unless you're already playing a 3-5-2 with premium midfielders, the best option is Souček. So I think that's an upgrade, and I would recommend it. Bednarek versus Vestergaard versus Kyle Walker-Peters. I think Vestergaard, from what I've seen this season, because Vestergaard's the biggest threat from set pieces. He's the most reliable scorer. He's got the most points. And I know he's a bit more expensive now, but he started at 4.5 million, and I think he's still not owned by that many compared to Kyle Walker-Peters. Bednarek is a good choice, and I think he makes a huge difference to the Southampton defence. But I would still probably prefer Kyle Walker-Peters. I think even if Walker-Peters doesn't get an assist, he is a bit more likely to get bonus points. But you can't go wrong with either one of them. I think Bednarek is the cheapest one. If not, he's the same as Kyle Walker-Peters. But yeah, I'd probably go for Vestergaard if you have the money. If not, Kyle Walker-Peters is fine, but you could do with any of them. I got Ings in for Wilson. You think it was a good idea? I definitely do, Jaden. I had Danny Ings before he got injured, and I moved him to Callum Wilson. So I definitely think Ings is better. Callum Wilson might be better value for money, but that's a different story. I think Ings is the more reliable player, and he's someone you could captain from time to time, even though I wouldn't personally do it. But yeah, I think that's a good transfer. James, Vestergaard, Stones, Diaz, Dallas, Creswell. If you're asking me who you should start from those lot, I would probably go for James, Stones, Diaz if you're picking 3. And if you had to pick a 4th one, I'd probably go for Creswell. Yeah. Is it time to transfer Werner out? I mean, this is something I did back in game week. I'm trying to think. Game week 5 maybe? Game week 4? I mean, it depends who you're going to bring in. But ultimately, as I keep on saying, I think there are better choices in terms of value, in terms of consistency, and in terms of captaincy. For 9 million, I'm not going to say you want to definitely captain him, but he's going to be one of those players like Son. I mean, if he was performing like Son, I'd say definitely keep him, but he's not. He's just, you can get so much more value for money. So look at my front 3, for example. I think Kane, an extra million/1.5 million, you can go to him. You could go to Vardy. And in terms of looking down, I think Danny Ings is much better value for money, if I'm being honest. Even Che Adams, Dominic Calvert-Lewin if you don't have him already, Bamford, Callum Wilson maybe. You could go for Watkins for the next few weeks. So I think you should definitely get rid of him if you have no other problems with your team. I'm not saying he's a bad pick. I'm not saying he's not going to come good. I'm not saying he hasn't done anything this season, because he has. But in my opinion, there's just better choices. Welcome, Dylan. Thank you for joining in. Josie is so defensive. I literally can keep all out defensive Spurs. I'm guessing you're saying you can't keep out their defence in FPL. I mean, that's why I'm considering going from Kilman to Dyer. And yeah, Mourinho, he's the most defensive, or one of the most defensive managers of all time. And yeah, I mean, it's effective. I mean, this season they're top of the league, and they're doing counter-attacking football, which is benefiting the likes of Son and Kane, who are just on another level at the moment. So yeah, I mean, I don't like it. I don't like that type of football. I prefer possession-based stuff. But you know what, it works. And if it works, I'd rather have the results than play well and not win. So it is what it is. And I think one Spurs defensive option. I know I had Dyer at the beginning of the season and I said I regret it and I moved to Sice, but you know what, now it's completely changed. Spurs are a different team, and having Dyer I think would be a good choice. If not, if you want a bit more attacking potential, Reguilon. And I think Reguilon's only blanked once the whole season when he started, so maybe keep an eye out for him. Apart from those two, I don't know, because Ori is a bit injury prone and he can rotate with Doherty. But yeah, I think Dyer and Reguilon are your best bets. My team: Martinez, Mendy, Chilwell, Creswell, Justin, Kyle Walker-Peters, KDB, Bruno, Grealish, Bowen, Grealish. Oh, you said Grealish twice. Jota, Bamford, DCL, and Kane. Save transfers or Jota out? No, I appreciate the questions, Philip. Thank you very much. I would probably say, I mean, it depends. If it's for a hit, I would then say hold because you have a good team for the week. But yeah, Jota out, I would probably do. And you already have Grealish and Bowen around that price point. You have KDB and Bruno. So that is a very tough one, to be honest, because you already have Bowen, you have Grealish. Apart from those two, I mean, who could you move Jota out for? Maybe Zaha, but I'm not sure what plans you have in mind in terms of getting someone in. But you could hold. You don't have to make the transfer this week. Play Souček or Watkins, already playing Grealish. I would definitely play Watkins because, like I say, I always prefer the striker over the more defensive option. And although Souček is a huge threat from set pieces and he's playing Palace, I just prefer Watkins against Burnley. So yeah, I would go for Watkins. My overall rank is 45k with every chips. Any tips to maintain my overall rank? To be honest, the main thing I would say is don't think about your rank. So very well done. You've done a great job. But I wouldn't think about it too much. Ranks can change very quickly. It depends a lot on the captaincy and you want to get that right. So maybe you're not going to be in a position now where if you're in a really low rank, you're going to try to be different and try to close the gap. You're in a good position. So I would just go for the option you think is going to do best and try to keep things simple. Keep the structure same. Try to avoid making too many transfers or hits and keep a stable structure. And that's something that I've learned from last season. As I keep on saying, I was in a really poor position last season because I was taking hits. I mean, I was playing for fun ultimately. I still am, but I was literally making transfers left, right and centre because it's the most fun part of the game. And I was in a poor position around this time last year. I don't know where I was, but I'm pretty sure I wasn't in the top million. But I ended up with a very strong rank because I ended up holding a stable structure with players I trust, like Salah, Mane at the time, all these players. And it ended up working, and the captaincy is so crucial. So definitely don't think about your rank. Keep on doing what you're doing. And don't let anything faze you. If you have 1 or 2 bad weeks, don't let that, don't rage transfer and stuff like that. Don't take too many hits. However, 1 or 2 hits can help you in the long term. So don't, think I should never take a hit again, because they can still help. But I'm just saying, try to avoid -8s, -12s, stuff like that, and try to keep things as they are as long as possible. But yeah, very well done. Wise to play 4 defenders today. Thinking about playing Zuma, Sice, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and Diaz. Chelsea or Wolves to keep a clean sheet. Got Bowen and Werner too. But I'm thinking about differential formation, benching Timo. I mean, there's not necessarily a problem with playing 4 defenders. I was doing it for a long time and still doing very well. So I don't think there is a problem. And those players you just mentioned, they are fine. But then maybe Sice, I'm not sure. I don't think he's going to keep a clean sheet if he does start. And will he even start? I'm not even sure. So it depends. And as for Chelsea or Wolves to keep a clean sheet, there is a possibility of a 0-0 or something like that. But I do think Chelsea are more likely to keep a clean sheet. Does that mean they definitely will? Not really. But yeah, that's my answer to that. And got Bowen and Werner too. But I'm thinking about differential formation, benching Timo. I wouldn't bench Timo for a defender, if that's what you're asking. But overall, ultimately, I would just get rid of Timo Werner and get one of those options I kept on saying. Danny Ings, Bamford, Calvert-Lewin. There's a lot of options. Who should I start? Kufa or Lamptey? Oh, that's a really tough one. I would probably go for Lamptey, but that is a very, very tough one. Lamptey has the much more, attacking potential. And on paper, Fulham are a worse team than Palace. But recently, Fulham have been decent. They drew to Liverpool, I haven't even mentioned that. I mean, that's a very impressive result. And they could have scored a second. Very unlucky not to do so. So Kufa was more likely to keep a clean sheet. But Lamptey has that attacking potential on top of the, on paper, more favourable fixture. So I would say Lamptey, but it's a tough one. Thoughts on Fernandes and Lookman in for Son and Jota? Oh, man. I mean, for this game week, if you're not taking a hit, fair enough. But having Lookman, I know he's been decent, and I know Fulham have been decent. I still wouldn't go near their assets, especially, attacking wise. But for this game week, Bruno, if you're getting him in without a hit and he's your captain, fair enough, I would do that. But in the long term, I wouldn't want to have Lookman. And if you don't have Kane, getting rid of Son is very, very difficult to do. Should I buy Taylor instead of Zuma? No. Definitely not for me. If you have two Chelsea defenders, then I would consider getting rid of one of them for maybe a City defender, a Spurs defender, a Southampton defender, maybe West Ham. But no, not for me, not Taylor. Definitely not from Zuma to Taylor. And that's my opinion. Is it worth transferring in Bamford for Kane so I can afford Son for Jorginho? Thank you. To be honest, I think that's a good move because Bamford's better than Jorginho. And Son and Kane, they're pretty... to be honest, I think those are good moves because you're going to still have two options that can play in your starting lineup. With Kane, of course, you're going to miss his goals and his consistency. He's on penalties. But you've got Son for that cover. He tends to link up with Kane this season. And Jorginho, he's hit and miss. He's out of the squad at the moment anyway. And the main reason people had him at the beginning was penalties. So yeah, I'd definitely make those moves, Ali. What's the best duo for the long term? Souček and Kane or Son and DCL? Souček would be on the bench. Son and DCL because, like I keep on saying, Souček, as much as he's a great fifth midfielder, he is going to get points on your bench because it's impossible to tell when he's going to get those points. And with Son and DCL, you're having two great options in either position. And with the other one, you have one good fifth midfielder, but not necessarily a good fourth or third midfielder in Souček. Even though Kane is very good, you could go to Ings, as I keep on saying, Callum Wilson, Bamford, Watkins, DCL, all of these people. So yeah, I'd definitely go for Son and DCL. This season we need to play wildcard before game week 16. Fair enough, Sandeep. And I've already played that, I think, in game week 6, so that's already done. And so yeah, I wouldn't say you have to use your wildcard. You don't want to just make unnecessary changes and think, I don't want to burn one, so I'm going to play it now and change things around. So, but it would be very useful, of course, if you have a lot of injuries, COVID cases and stuff like that. But yeah, thank you for that update, Sandeep. Is it worth targeting your triple captainship on the double game week? I think so, Savage. Although for me personally, I used it once during a double game week, and it was on Mane. He faced Wolves and West Ham, and he got injured in 40 minutes. But these things happen, so I would say it's worth the risk. But ultimately, if you think someone's going to do really well in one game week and you think they could get a really big score, it's worth risking it. But I would keep it to the likes of Kane, Son, Bruno Fernandes, Salah, KDB, and I wouldn't look past that, I'm being honest. Those are the players I would be targeting on a triple captaincy, no one else. Things could change, but that's how I feel at the moment. Should I get rid of Chilwell? It depends if you already have a Chelsea defender. If you don't have one, then maybe don't. But you could go from Chilwell to Reece James or Zuma if you want, and then upgrade the rest of your defense or wherever you want to, maybe upgrade, maybe your midfield or attack. So it depends. I wouldn't say he's a must sell, but he's also not a must keep. He's not an essential in my opinion, because Reece James and Zuma offer better value for money at the moment anyway. But once Chilwell starts, getting into those attacking positions as frequently and Ziyech is back, maybe I'm going to look to bring him back in, if I'm being honest. But I'm using the next 2 game weeks to kind of evaluate my team and evaluate Chelsea defence and then kind of decide who should I go for, Reece James, Zuma or Chilwell. But in my opinion, having one Chelsea defender is very, very good still. So definitely don't try to, forget their defence altogether just because of a few bad fixtures. Would you rather transfer KDB, Salah or Bruno in order to bring in Kane next week? Oh my God, that's a tough one. I mean, if we're looking at it from a purely fixtures point of view, let's look. Bruno for game week 14 has got Leeds at home, which is not a bad fixture to be fair. Then we've got Salah, Palace away, not a bad fixture, although I don't think he has a great record against Palace in their stadium. And then KDB, who's got Southampton away. To be honest, I would look at it from a purely long-term view. And in my opinion, Bruno and Salah are the better options, and I would probably get rid of KDB, and that would fund Kane. So that's my opinion on it. But then again, I could be wrong. Jota to Souček and hope for future players I want don't rise, or go to a 4.5 million mid. To be honest, I'm not sure, because in terms of, if it was my team, so this is what I would recommend, I would say go to a 4.5 million midfielder and try to have 5 playing defenders, and Basuma could literally be last on your bench. Now, the reason why Basuma, in my case, is second on my bench right now is because he's at least likely to play. Kilman, he's probably not going to start. So when I upgrade Kilman to a playing defender, like Dyer, like Stones, Vestergaard, whatever, then Basuma would always be on my third bench. So in that case, I would definitely say go for the 4.5 million midfielder and upgrade the rest of your starting lineup and have a good squad and have 1 or 2 options from your bench. So that's what I would go for. But Souček, if you want a fifth midfielder who covers in, who can get those goals from time to time, I think he's the best option, like I said. But I would go for the 4.5 million midfielder. Should I take out Robertson in for who? I have Chilwell, Kufal, KWP, Mitchell. I'll probably go for a City defender or Spurs defender, and so either Reguilon, Diaz or Dyer, in my opinion. If you want to risk it, you could go for Cancelo. He's a very exciting option, but yeah, I'd definitely go for one of them. Dallas, Kyle Walker-Peters, Souček or Creswell, Romeu, Dallas as bench options. That's a tough one. I would probably go for the first one because Romeu, I mean, it depends. You're probably going to be leaving more points on your bench from the first choice, but you have better squad depth. And in terms of rotation, that will help you very much. But that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. And KWP is, I think, the main difference the main reason why I went with the first set of ones that you went with. Werner to Ings for a hit. I wouldn't go for a hit, but for next week, I would definitely do Werner to Ings. If not, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Bamford, etc. But yeah, that's a good move. I'm considering doubling up on City's defence since because of their defence and fixtures. Thoughts? I agree, and that's why I said I might do the same. Kilman to Stones and have Stones and Diaz. So I think that's a good move. The only thing is prepare for rotation and make sure your other 3 defenders, are playing. They're nailed on, like Zuma, Chilwell, Kufal, Kyle Walker-Peters, Vestergaard, etc. You don't want to have 2 City defenders and then you only have 1 or 2 other options, because if you need 3, you might sometimes have 0 points from one of your starting lineup players. Chilwell to Stones or Diaz for this game week? I'd go for Diaz because, like I keep on saying, although Stones is better for the short term because he's 0.8 million cheaper, you have that extra security with Diaz that he's going to be nailed on unless something happens to him, unless he has a falling out with Pep, as apparently happened with Laporte. So I'll just go for Diaz. Vardy out to Brewster and Jota to KDB for a -4. I wouldn't do that personally. I think Vardy can do very well this week. I know you'd probably captain KDB in that case, and it is tempting, but I wouldn't do that in my opinion. Have Chilwell, Kufal, Justin Lamptey want Man City defender? From your team, I would probably move in maybe the next game week or so Justin to a Man City defender if you have the funds. I would recommend a Man City defender for sure, but it's up to you because, like I keep on saying, there's a risk of rotation, and you've got to be prepared to live with that. Ziyech to Grealish, I have 9.2 million in the bank after removing Ziyech. Is there someone better that I'm missing? For 9.2 million or below, in my opinion, Grealish is the standout pick, so I'd definitely go for him. Of course, if you don't have Son and you could maybe find a bit more money elsewhere, I would recommend Son over Grealish, but from your budget situation, I'd definitely go for Jack. Shall I captain Grealish over Kane, DCL or Vardy? No. As I said in my preview yesterday, I said I'm not captaining Grealish again because I've done it once this season and I got 1 point from it, or 2, from the ×2. So I wouldn't do that. I would prefer captaining probably Vardy from those lot that you mentioned. I assume you aren't looking to bring in KDB for this game week, so any plans for you to bring him at all? Well, to be honest, like I said before, I was looking at it and Kane's consistency, Son's consistency, Salah, Bruno, I want to keep them in the long term. Then I looked at the captaincy. As I said in last night's video, I said that this is the only game week where I might captain KDB, and even then I can captain Bruno. And then I look at next game week, I would have to say I would rather captain Kane against Leicester than KDB against Southampton. Then I look at game week 15 and Salah's got West Brom, so as long as he plays, I would probably captain Salah over KDB against Newcastle at home. So that's why at the moment I'm probably not going to bring him in. But of course, if City are firing and they're demolishing all these teams and they've got another 6-7 of them to go up until January, February, then of course I will change my mind. But at the moment, I just think there's no need to get him. I could maybe do Salah to KDB on a -4 this week and captain him, and then move it back for game week 14 or 15. But ultimately, I just think, I want to reduce the amount of transfers, and I don't want to make a transfer that I will ultimately, reverse in the future. So that's why I haven't gone for KDB. But of course, I could go from Salah to KDB for this week and then reverse it back in a game weeks or two time. So yeah. Sorry if you've answered already. Who would you captain, KDB or Bruno? It's alright, Nick. I mean, yeah, you're probably new to the stream. Welcome here. I would probably go for Bruno, personally, if I had both of them, because he's more reliable and he's never blanked away from home. He's got the most points since he has joined the Premier League. He's got the most points since Game Week 8. He's got 47, I believe, and that's 10 more than second place. And he's facing Sheffield. It's a very good fixture for him. And Man United have won every single game away from home. Then you look at KDB. He's got no goals from open play this season, and you're mainly relying on assists there. However, I think if he does start, I think he's in for gold against West Brom, and it could be a 3-4-0, and he's involved in all of them. So you can't go wrong either way. But I personally would just go for Bruno because he's the safer pick, although I do concede that KDB is the more explosive asset from the two. Will Mahrez play? That's the thing, I'm not sure. I mean, it depends on the rotation. I personally think it depends on what Pep prioritises. If he prioritises the Southampton game over the Carabao Cup game against Arsenal straight afterwards, then maybe he will bench Mahrez, but I couldn't tell you for sure. I just opened my account after like 10 days, and now I saw I got 80 points, and I captained Vardy like 2 weeks ago. He was still the captain. Yeah, I mean, sometimes that's the thing. If you kind of leave things and let things take their toll rather than overthinking and making changes and decisions and tinkering, you end up doing better. So that's very good. 80 points is a very good score. Who shall I captain? Anyone? Kane against Liverpool, DCL against Leicester, Vardy against Everton, or Grealish against Burnley? Harvey, like I already told you before, I would captain Vardy. And if not, maybe you could go for Kane or DCL. I wouldn't captain Grealish. I know he's got the greatest fixture. And if you back him, I'm not saying don't captain him, but me personally, I just prefer going for the premiums and the more reliable options. I'm going for 3-4-3, Kyle Walker-Peters, Robertson, Chilwell. That looks pretty good. Of course, the fixtures aren't the greatest. They're all facing... I mean, maybe not Walker-Peters now, but, you know, on paper, they're all good teams that they're facing. So, yeah, that's still good. Triple captaining Bruno for fun. I mean, good luck. I mean, maybe it's going to work. But, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I think I'm going to wait for a double game week. And if not, just, I don't know. I'm going to wait for triple captaincy for now. But that's a good choice. Captain Bruno for KDB. I would, like I keep on saying, I would definitely captain Bruno instead. But that doesn't mean KDB is a bad option. Not by a long shot. So, yeah, go for either one of them. But if you're asking me, I would go for Bruno personally. What's your thoughts on my team? I have Kufal and Dallas on my bench. Let's read through this here. Yeah, you're benching Kufal. I would probably put Kufal instead of Kyle Walker-Peters. That's just me. And you could go for Dallas over Robertson. But that's a solid team and should do very well. Take out Salah to bring in Bruno. Could bring both back in the next week for a -4. KDB will be my captain. I personally, you know what, you could do that. If it's for free, then yeah, fair enough. You could do that. You have, you know, the two main captaincy options this week covered. But then again, you're taking out Salah for a home game. I know it's Spurs, and he's got a good record against them. So I would consider it, you know, it is a good move. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't take the -4 next week. I would maybe wait 2 weeks when Salah has West Brom at home and then get him back. But of course, maybe price rises will kind of change things for you. But yeah, you know what? You could do that. Do you think Danny Ings returning makes Che Adams a more attractive option, or do you think that partially hinders his points capacity and could serve as a reason to transfer him out? Well, as I've always said, Che Adams offers fantastic value for money, but around 6 million, I prefer Bamford. And I think Ings is worth that extra 2 million over Adams. I know the points doesn't suggest it so far, but Ings has been injured for a long time and he gets assists when he doesn't score. So I would still go for Ings over him. But that doesn't mean that Adams is useless and you should get him out and all of that. I'm just saying I think there are better options around his price, and I think Ings is a better player and will get more points over the course of the season than Che Adams, so long as he stays fit. Good luck to you, Savage Mode, as well. Merry Christmas, and yeah, hopefully we do well today, tomorrow, and for the rest of the FPL season. Lookman versus Souček this week only. Oh my god, that's a tough question. I would probably go for Lookman because there's a bit more attacking. Souček's points are unsustainable. But as a fifth midfielder, kind of set and forget fifth midfielder, I would prefer Souček. But yeah, in terms of starting this week, I'd probably go for Lookman. I would start Kyle Walker-Peters over Kufal. Fair enough. I've got him first on my bench. And like I said, if Diaz doesn't play, Kyle Walker-Peters will probably come on. Bruno is going to be my captain. Salah's my vice, as I said yesterday. and I'm not going to change things. I know Kane and Son might blank against Liverpool, but you know what? It's worth taking the risk over Kyle Walker-Peters and Basuma and Kilman. Just forget it. You know, they're just they're just there. I'm so bad at FPL. My midfield is Foden, Jorginho, and Gundogan. Yeah, but Nina, didn't you say you got 80 points last week with Vardy captain? I mean, you can't be that bad. But I would definitely looking at getting rid of them. You want to have people who start. It's not like UCL Fantasy where Foden, Jorginho, and Gundogan can get points for ball recoveries. So I would definitely look at changing that midfield. And if you have that wildcard still, because you are new to the game, then I would probably definitely make a complete change there and kind of invest more money with the likes of Son, Grealish, Salah, Fernandes. Double game weeks announced. Oh, fair enough. Let me have a look at that. Yeah. KDB is the best choice. I mean, fair enough. I mean, it's your opinion, but I'm just going to go for Bruno if I had both of them. But I think they're both the best captaincy options today. Start Dallas or Kufal? I would start Kufal, but yeah, it's a tough one. Who shall I captain out of Mahrez, Salah, and Fernandes? Fernandes, definitely. Start Balbuena or Kyle Walker-Peters? I would start Balbuena, but you know what? If you back Kyle Walker-Peters to keep a clean sheet against Arsenal, just do it, yeah. Adams or Ward-Prowse against Arsenal? I would prefer Adams. The only thing I will say, though, is that Arsenal did concede their first set-piece goal against Burnley, so maybe Ward-Prowse will take advantage of that, but Adams is more... His points are more sustainable. Most of Ward-Prowse's come from, you know, free kicks and corners, and as much as he's so good at them and he's a great cross of the ball, I just prefer Che Adams. Yeah, I'll have a look at the double game weeks soon. What are double game weeks? A double game week is basically when, because of a game week being postponed, or you know, there's a blank game week. Let's say for game week 19, I'm not sure when this double game week is, by the way. Let's see, actually. Let's have a look. I mean, it hasn't been updated here, but I think FPL is going to crash anyway. But yeah, let's say the Newcastle game is going to slot in for game week 18, and Grealish has Tottenham at home, and then he's got Newcastle. Then yeah, they both are part of the same game week. So if you captain them, they have two chances to get points, and they're going to get, if let's say Grealish plays both of those games, he's going to get minimum 4 points for playing 90 minutes. And yeah, of course, he's got chances to get goals in both games, assists, and they all count for that game week score. So that's a double game week, basically. Hopefully I've explained it well enough. Thoughts on West Ham assets, considering they have a double game week in game week 19 due to the FA Cup tie? Yeah, game week 19 it is then. So let's look at Kufel then. I don't know if it's updated on here, but yeah, so he's got Burnley at home. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I will probably keep Kufal in my case. I know the other week I was kind of talking about getting rid of him, but yeah, one or two West Ham assets aren't bad, but I wouldn't be targeting their attackers or midfielders yet. If Antonio's fit, maybe I could go from Bamford to Antonio or something like that. But if I'm being honest, I'm not really too interested in West Ham assets overall. The only ones are the defence at the moment, and the midfield I'm definitely not interested in. And the only other one would be, you know, Fabianski if I had the money, and if not, Antonio. Which three should I play? Chilwell, Cancelo, Kufal, Walker-Peters. I mean, the deadline has passed, but I would probably go for Chilwell, Kufal, and Cancelo, and Walker-Peters first on the bench. Bench Pulisic or Welbeck. I mean, I'm just going to be saying, hopefully you made the right decision in the end. I would probably bench Welbeck, to be honest. But yeah, it is what it is. Mahrez out, Ferran Torres in. Is it okay? I wouldn't, in FPL, I would definitely not go near Ferran Torres. He's only got 1 goal, 1 assist this season. And I think Mahrez for this game week, I mean, if you have him, don't get rid of him. But I wouldn't be looking to bring Mahrez in the long term. Get more reliable players like Grealish, Son, Salah, Bruno, KDB. Of course, you might not have the structure in place to do so, which is fair enough. But I wouldn't go for any other City asset apart from KDB. And if you had to push me, then I would say maybe Sterling or Mahrez, but I wouldn't go for Torres and all these people. Not yet anyway. Things can change, but Ferran Torres just hasn't shown it in the Premier League so far. Let's see. Pogba for Jota? No, not for me. From United, just get Bruno. And if you can't get him, maybe Rashford. But I wouldn't go for Pogba, definitely not. Good luck to you at all. Thank you for tuning in from the beginning. I really appreciate it. And hopefully everyone here who's been watching does very well. And we'll have to wait and see. In the global leagues, they tell me that my rank is 815 since game week 8 on Globe because I started on game week 8. Oh, that's pretty interesting. I mean, that's a very good rank. I mean, 815. I've never seen that number on FPL before. I have Martinez, Kufal, Justin, and Adams on the bench. Opinion on using bench boost? Not for me. I know that obviously all your players could do very well, but I would save the bench boost for a double game week. And last year, one of the best things I did was using a bench boost during a double game week, and I ended up getting 127 points, which was by far the greatest FPL week I've ever had. So I would probably, wait for that, but it's up to you. Okay, so you did bench Welbeck for Pulisic. Fair enough, Tom, and good luck. I think it's the right decision. The only thing with Pulisic is that he's injury prone. He might not even, Lampard's being very cautious with him because, let's be honest, Pulisic breaks down every single minute. I would look in the future to maybe get rid of him for someone else. I had Pulisic for a week, and then I think the following game week I wildcarded and I got in Grealish. So yeah, it's just one to keep an eye on. Mahrez for Mane. I mean, if it was for this game week, fair enough, but I don't think Mane's worth the money at all this season so far. For around his price, go for KDB, go for Salah, go for Bruno. And from Mahrez's price, if you can, try to go to Grealish or to Son. That's my opinion. Chilwell to Reece James. That's something, what I did was go from Chilwell to Diaz because I had double Chelsea defence. And what I think I'm going to do is wait 1 or 2 game weeks, see how Chelsea do, compare the 3 Chelsea defenders, and I might go from Zuma to Reece James myself. So I've technically done that move already. And I did have Reece James before, but because he was getting benched, I wildcarded. And in the end, he started playing 90 minutes every single time. But I think Reece James is better value for money. And maybe Chua will get his form back and maybe you'll regret getting rid of him. But I just think Reece James is better value for money so long as he plays. How did you make money like profit to use? Well, to be honest, I don't have that much money. On here it says I've got 104.8 million squad value. But yeah, I think some people have higher values than me. But yeah, it's not too important. If you look at the leaderboards for the highest squad values, most people who have the highest are in a very poor rank and they take a lot of hits. Prediction for the game's fixtures. That's a good one. Let's see if I missed any other questions though before I do that. I have Martin. Oh yeah, I've already done that. I've done all of them. Okay, so... oh my god, yeah. Wolves against Chelsea. Oh my god, that's a tough one. I would still back Chelsea to win. I think they'll win like 2-1. Man City, West Brom, I think 3-0, something like that. Could be more, but let's just go for 3-0. Arsenal, Southampton, if I'm being honest, I just don't see Arteta turning the situation around. That doesn't mean I'm Arteta out, by the way. I think these players are a disgrace, but I think if you're thinking logically, I think Southampton win for sure. But maybe Arsenal turn up. And I think against Burnley, they were playing well up until the red card. They just still look a bit toothless up front. They're not taking the chances that they do create. So I would probably go for, if I'm being honest, I would probably go for 2-1 Southampton. But hopefully Arsenal win. It would be such a morale booster because we need it. Leeds against Newcastle. Ooh, that's a tough one, to be honest. I'd probably go for... maybe 3-1 Leeds. I'm not sure though. Maybe that's a bit of a bold prediction. I'm actually, these are just rough predictions. I'm actually going to be writing them out because I'm actually keeping a tab of all the predictions I make with a friend. But these are just the ones I have off the cuff. I'm probably going to be changing a few of them before the games actually start. Leicester against Everton. I'd be surprised if Everton keep another clean sheet. I know they look better against Chelsea, but yeah, I think there's going to be goals in this one. I'm actually going to go for 3-2 Leicester. And then Fulham Brighton. Oh my god, that's a tough one. Maybe 2-1 Brighton, but I think Fulham might get something out of that. Then we look at Liverpool Spurs. That's a really, really good one. Mourinho, he's got a history of, unsettling Liverpool, but this is Liverpool right now. I know they don't have Van Dijk and, they aren't looking great. They were pretty poor against Fulham, but I do back Liverpool to win. I think it's going to be tight though. Maybe 2-1. But I've been saying a lot of 2-1s. West Ham Palace. You know what? I'm going to go for a 2-0 win for West Ham, but you never know. Aston Villa Burnley. Oh my god, I don't know. Burnley are an awful team, but with Pope, they look like a different entity. I would still go for a Villa win. I'm not sure how much. I do think they're going to concede. I don't know. I just have a feeling they will. But you know what? Let's go for a 1-0 win for Villa. And as for Sheffield Man United, I think it's going to be 3-1 United, something like that. So those are my predictions, just off the cuff, very rough, and I'm probably going to change a few of them, like the last one I just gave. Let's go through any last questions that you have. Thank you to everyone who's still tuned in because the deadline has passed. I really appreciate you. Everyone who's been waiting, everyone who's been here now and engaging in the discussion. I really appreciate it. How many more double and blank game weeks are there going to be after this one? I'll be honest, Emmett, I'm not entirely sure, but I would suggest, or I would think that there will be a few more after this. Maybe not as many as there have been in seasons gone by, but I do think there will be a few more. I mean, think about it. Aston Villa still have got, 2 double game weeks to come because, their games against City and Newcastle, they didn't happen. Obviously, Newcastle will have that double game week with Villa. Then you look at Man City, they've got a double game week against Villa, which I've just mentioned now. So I still think there's going to be a few. And because of FA Cup ties, there's might be a bit of a few clashes. So there might be a blank game week for some of the teams that go far in the FA Cup, maybe in the Champions League and stuff like that. Carabao Cup maybe. So all of this, I think, will add on to double game weeks. I couldn't tell you exactly when, but... yeah, there's some people who do spreadsheets and stuff like Ben Krellin. So keep an eye on that because it's very, very important to be on top of it. But of course, maybe thinking about it now, it's a bit premature, but it's good to plan. It's always good to plan. There'll definitely be more, so don't worry too much about that. One guy triple captain Mahrez and got 68 points. That's insane. Yeah, I mean, I've seen some crazy ones before. I mean, I can't think of some off the top of my head, but that's a crazy one and it worked. So you see, sometimes if you just think about the fixture, you just have a good feeling about it. It can work. And maybe a bit of luck is involved, of course. Sometimes double game weeks aren't as beneficial in terms of triple captaincy as you would like. But yeah, that's a really good one. Do you think Diaz will stay in the starting City lineup? I'll be honest, Joel. I'm not sure if he will today. But beyond this game week, thinking about the long term, definitely. I mean, they're keeping clean sheets. Diaz and Stones. I don't know Pep. I mean, hopefully he doesn't, pull one on us. But I just think Diaz will be a main starter for the foreseeable future, maybe even the long term, years gone by. But I'm not going to say that he's, immune to Pep roulette. Definitely not. Should I go to Grealish? Should I go Grealish to KDB, then Kane to Bamford for 4-point hit? No, not in my opinion, because KDB has Southampton away next. Bamford has Man United away next. And Kane has Leicester at home, and like I said, I think he's a great captaincy choice for that game week. And Grealish has got West Brom, so definitely not. And for a hit, even more so, I wouldn't do it. In the long term, you could go for that, especially if you already have Son. You've got that City Spurs cover, but I wouldn't do that. Hey, all about FPL here. Well done. Oh, yeah, you've changed your name, FPL Book. Oh, yeah. Thank you for tuning in. And yeah, I see that book emoji. That's very good. Or should I say DP. Thoughts on Lindelof? He's a good price, but I think, you know what? Let's look. He's 4.8 million. Man United don't keep too many clean sheets. They're not good defensively. You could go to Vestergaard for a bit more. You could go to Chelsea defender if you have that little bit extra. Eric Dyer, Diaz or Stones for 4.8 million. Kufal, Masuaku when he's fit. I just think there's too many choices. I wouldn't go for Lindelof personally, but if United start fixing things up at the back, just beyond the City game where both teams are very cautious, then maybe he's an option. But right now, I'm just not considering it. Arsenal going from invincible to invisible. Yeah. I don't know. I think invisible is too kind, but a lot of these players are hiding. Hopefully that changes. But yeah, I don't get me started on Arsenal because I could be here all day. Oh my God, it's just so stressful supporting them. But I let all my thoughts out on Twitter the other day. And as much as Arteta has made a lot of mistakes, I think these players are, they let down Unai Emery, who's a good manager. They let down Ljungberg, who's a club legend. And you think of these manager bounces, Ljungberg couldn't get one. You look at Arsene Wenger, the greatest ever manager at Arsenal, one of the best of all time. They let him down. So then you have to think, maybe these players aren't as good as you think. Maybe they're a bad bunch, maybe not of people, but of professionals. So you have to look at it that way as well. Bro, how are you not Arteta out? I agree the players aren't good enough for Arsenal, but 15th just before Christmas is unacceptable. I completely agree, and I'm not saying that's what I mean. So I'm not saying Arteta, has to stay in the job forever or whatever, because if we're in a position where we could get relegated or, still be in this position, of course, he has to come into question, and he already is for me. I already said, so why did he leave out Saliba? He's surely better than the likes of Holding, Mustafi, and all these other players who are in ahead of him. And then you look at Ozil. I think he's not the answer to the problems, and he should be gone. It's a bit like Pogba. Too much all of this noise and stuff, but there's not enough end product. And Ozil hasn't done that much over the last 2 years since his new contract, but he would offer something different. In attacking midfield, we're playing Lacazette. He's not an attacking midfielder. He doesn't offer the guile, the weight of pass, the awareness of, positioning, opening up places for others. He doesn't offer that. So, you look at those two decisions, leaving them out of the squad completely. Even Socrates, which might have, affected squad harmony. Socrates was doing all right under Arteta before, and I don't rate him particularly, but he was doing decent, and he's not a shit player in my opinion. So you look at that. Then you look at the lack of creativity throughout the side, no plan B, and we're playing dire football, and we're 15th. So, of course, I am not absolving Arteta from blame, but the position I take is that the manager, so long as he's there, even if I don't think he's going to turn it around, I'm going to support him. And the fact that this situation has unfolded, under different managers, especially, a very good manager in Emery, Hjumberg, and Arsene Wenger, who's an all-time great. You have to think that you can't just blame the manager, because let's say you get rid of Arteta, okay? Then what if we get a manager bounce from, I don't know, let's say Allegri, who, by the way, I think would do a very good job, but what will happen when things unfold again? We're in the exact same position, we still have these players, and let's be real, Arteta or no Arteta, a lot of these players need to go, a lot of them. Only a few of them, like Tierney, like Saka, like Gabriel, even Aubameyang, I would still back him. Thomas Partey. Apart from those, Leno, maybe I'm forgetting one or two more. The rest are just not good enough, let's be real. And, at the moment, none of them would walk into a top 6 team. None of them would walk into the likes of West Ham and stuff like that. Maybe only Gabriel and Tierney. But that's my thoughts on it. Like I said, I don't absolve Arteta from the blame. But I'm not Arteta in, I'm not Arteta out. I think these players are a bunch of bottle jobs. And, they've won a few FA Cups. They're a bit of a cup team. They've reached finals in the Carabao Cup and the Europa League. But ultimately, in the league, you need to be consistent and you need to build, a team and a squad that is hungry, that has the mentality, and that has the skill to be consistent across 38 games. And this group simply isn't that. So that's just what I think about it. City defense prediction. Yeah, like I said, I think, I think they're going to win 3-0 or something like that. Maybe 4-5. But I don't know who's going to start. I mean, it's tough. I think if they are prioritising the Southampton game and they rest players, I think it will be Mendy at left back and at right back. It could be Cancelo, to be fair, and Walker is rested. If not, I can't tell you. I mean, that's just my prediction. I think Walker will be rested. Centre backs. I mean, I don't know. Laporte hasn't played since that Spurs defeat, so I'm not sure. So. I don't even know if Diaz is going to play. So I think Stones will. I'm not sure if Laporte comes back in. So you know what? Let's just say Diaz and the Stones. But I couldn't tell you for sure. Sorry. If Giroud starts, we'll watch Chelsea versus Wolves. I mean, I definitely won't. But yeah. Well, to be fair, it's all on Amazon Prime. Think about that. I don't know if any of you have that. So I might actually watch some of these games, in full. But like I keep on saying, watching Man City against West Brom, especially if Diaz isn't starting and then KDB does, I don't want to watch that, so maybe I won't. No KDB gang as well. We'll have the same midfield as you, Dylan. Just was tough to transfer any of those 4 out for a hit. Exactly, and even if I got in, KDB for Basuma, I don't want to go from Kane to Brewster and stuff like that. Like, I just don't feel it. And then it wouldn't have allowed me to get Diaz, so yeah, and I think Kane is just better. If you compare Kane to KDB this season, Kane's just been better in terms of FPL. And then you look at Salah, Bruno, I think the same thing. They've been better than KDB. Son, same thing. Grealish, fair enough. I think KDB will outscore him over the next few, but there's a 4 million difference in that. So yeah, I support Barcelona, so I know your pain. Oh yeah, Barcelona's another one. I have to say, I mean, I feel sorry for Messi. I know he's always played in great teams, but this is an awful team, and not just now. Since 2016, I believe, he's had to carry ever since Neymar left. It's been even more apparent. So, yeah, I mean, Barcelona's just an absolute shambles. And I know Bartomeu got a lot of stick, and I mean, he's one of the main reasons why they're in this mess. But it goes beyond that. There's a lot of problems. But I think the main root of the problem was Bartomeu. And at least with Barcelona, you could vote him out. There's a presidential election. With Arsenal, the Cronkies just have control. So I think Barcelona are a bit luckier in that regard, and even then they've won league titles during their dark years, where they've bottled games against the likes of Liverpool, and the Roma. I mean, I'm losing count. I can't remember the other one. But yeah, do you see what I mean? Like, I think Messi, I don't know. I don't see him being fully motivated. I don't know about him. But I feel sorry for him. As for the rest, I think a lot of them, apart from maybe Ansu Fati and a few other players, I think the rest are just shockingly bad. And the manager, I mean, I don't even know what to say about him. How are you on fantasy? Oh, well, I mean, in terms of rank, I'm here, but I think what you mean is how am I still on the page? That's because I haven't refreshed, but why refresh it? Why refresh it when you can look at this lovely team in front of you? Can't be changing managers every week. I agree, Emmett, but then again, I'm not saying that, if we keep on losing and losing, I'm not going to be naive enough to think Arteta has to stay in, because ultimately you can't get rid of 23 players or more. It's easy to change the manager and get a reaction, because maybe, I know it sounds stupid now, but maybe Arsenal could go on to win a cup or compete for one. Although I don't think it's going to happen, but look at last season, similar position, although it wasn't as bad in December. And then you look and, they won the FA Cup, and I know it's not enough. The problem I have with winning all these trophies is that we don't build on them, because if you win an FA Cup and stuff like that, you want to have a platform to then compete for the league in a few years' time, but we're just on the opposite end of the spectrum, unfortunately. You can't be a fan only when the team wins. I agree, Dylan. I agree. Well said, G. It's tough here for Arsenal fans. It is, but then again, every club goes for a cycle like this, and I'm not going to try shift, blame or whatever, or, attention, but at this stage last season, before the Burnley game, Man United and Spurs had the exact same number of points as Arsenal at the same stage. But, United got Bruno, and they ended up finishing third. Now, I'm not saying if we signed someone of Bruno's caliber, we would finish third, but the point is, and I've said this before, Arsenal actually remind me a lot of United before they signed Bruno. They were crying out for creativity. They were playing Lingard every week at an attacking midfield. And it reminds me, playing Lacazette and Willock in attacking midfield, or, all of these other stuff. We don't have creativity, simple as that. But when Bruno came in, he offered goals from midfield. He offered, in big games, he was always appear. He's so consistent, just look at his FPL returns away from home. He's never blanked. And he offers assists, chance creation. Against West Ham, I think, in 45 minutes, he created 8 chances, which is a league high of the whole season in 45 minutes. If Arsenal had someone of that profile, maybe 2, I would say, then I think there would be a huge difference. But having said that, a lot of these players aren't good enough. And, Arteta got the best out of them. That's why I was backing the likes of Xhaka and stuff like that, because they looked to have completely transformed when Arteta came in. Up until the end of the season, they were doing very well against big teams as well. They were fairly consistent. And at one point, Arteta was like third. Since he arrived, Arsenal were third in like the overall league table. But it's just gone really bad this season. I think there's something definitely wrong in the changing room. These players, like I said, I think some of them might be toxic. I don't want to say for sure. I don't know. No one does. But I think the problems then beyond the manager, definitely. And that's why, regardless, even if I don't think Arteta will turn it around now, hopefully he does, but I don't think he will, I'm still going to back him. And that's just how I see it. Dylan, I hope you support Barca even when Messi leaves and not shipped to City. I don't support Barca, that's the thing. I support Arsenal. I just like Messi because, he's from my country, from my city. And for Argentina, I think he... all the stuff he's done for Argentina, I know a lot of people say, oh, what has he won? But, he's done a lot for Argentina and he deserved to have won, at least the one Copa America and at least the World Cup. So that's why I feel sorry for Messi. And also just the fact that, if you're a player of that caliber, you deserve to be in one of the best teams in the world. And, Barcelona are simply not that at the moment. So, I don't support Barcelona. Never. Would you consider getting rid of a Spurs player? Maybe Son? I mean, if Spurs keep on being defensive... and, one of Son or Kane, start dropping in terms of that output, of course. But at the moment, I just don't see that being the case. And they still offer exceptional value for their bucks. So at the moment, I'm not considering it. But let's say Son starts blanking a lot. KDB is firing, and I just can't ignore him. Then maybe. But even then, it would probably involve doing Son and Kane to maybe Ings and KDB or something like that. So that's why... I'm not too sure at the moment, but I'm happy with the Spurs duo at the moment. I sit for every game. Your point's 765, my point's 365. Can I overtake you until May? I mean, I'd be a bit, I wouldn't say upset. I mean, I'd be a bit, surprised. I mean, if you overcame a 400-point deficit, and it would show that I was doing really badly. But you never know. But yeah, I mean, if you're like 800th in the world or whatever since you've joined, I mean, there's a chance. Still think we will turn it around. Hopefully, we'll get some creative midfield in January. Yeah, I think, in my opinion, we should get at least two. I mean, you look at Man United, they got Van der Beek and they're not even playing him, but having that option, because what if Bruno gets injured? I think we need to do something similar, but I think I read somewhere, I think Edu said that Arsenal aren't going to be splashing the cash in January, which I'm not surprised by, but maybe it's just a tactic. Maybe they will end up doing it. But I mean, if we're 15th in the league and the board don't spend, then it just shows, I mean, the board, ever since they've come in, Arsenal have gone downhill and downhill. But Arsene Wenger, because he's a great manager, he helped to stabilise the ship and the move to the Emirates and all of that. And even despite selling Van Persie, Fabregas, all these great players, he still maintained high quality football and Champions League every single season with trophies along the way. But unfortunately, now that seems like, a dream. That seems like something we want to aspire to first before making the next step, which is what we were crying out for years ago. Because let's be real, I mean, I still think Arsenal fans were, I wouldn't say they're entitled because, I don't think any club should be entitled to anything, even Real Madrid. But, if you see your club kind of being, accepting mediocrity and all of this, and then you go from winning titles, and beating the best teams consistently, qualifying, or should I say competing for Champions League finals and stuff, to then accepting top four, then the standards keep on dropping. And now, top four seems like a great achievement to everyone. But for me, it's something that Arsenal should be doing minimum. But of course, I understand the situation and I know that there has to be a lot of improvement before we even get to that. But ultimately, Arsenal should be competing for league titles. It's as simple as that. Same with Man United, especially with all they have spent. And I mean, Arsenal is the third biggest club in England. It's as simple as that. Even Man United gives headache to me to see our team is in Europa shit. Yeah, well, I mean, at least you have a chance of winning it. But yeah, of course, no one wants to be in Europa. And the way I see it, as I keep on saying, I want to win Europa League and never be in it again. But let's be real. I mean, if you look at Arsenal, if we do somehow win Europa, which I very much doubt, we're going to get absolutely annihilated against the big teams in Champions League because we're not good enough yet. I mean, we're not even winning in the league against poor teams. So, you know what? I mean, the table doesn't lie. And, I mean, with Man United, I think the Istanbul game was just so big for you. I mean, the fact that you lost that game after winning the first two just completely derailed your Champions League season. And you are where you are. Leipzig and PSG were always going to be tough. And the fact that you beat both of them and still didn't qualify, it just shows you were in the group of death. But yeah, Man United just relying on Bruno pretty much and a poor defence. In my opinion, a poor manager. But it is what it is. And yeah. Sell Salah KDB. Well, I can't now anyway. The deadline has passed. And I don't think, I wouldn't have done it anyway, even if I had a chance. Willian said they'll win Champions League in 3 years. Well, yeah, I know. And a lot was said of it at the time and even more so now. But you know what? Arteta's ambitious. And the way Arsenal were at that time, I'm not saying that we were poised to finish in top four. Definitely not. But, there was such a great buzz around the club because of the FA Cup, the Community Shield, from a manager who, in his first job in 7 months pretty much or less, he won 2 trophies in a month and had a great start in the league, 3 wins from 4. But then ever since the league, the Premier League squad was selected or submitted, yeah, it's just gone downhill. 1 win from 8 since then, and that's poor. But you know what? You never know. Football's a funny game. I'm not saying we're going to win the Champions League. Will we even be in it within 3 years? That's a tough ask. But yeah, things can change very quickly. I just hope that Arteta changes things for the better. But yeah, at the moment it's looking very grim for him, unfortunately. I'll be answering any last few questions that you lot have before wrapping up. But I appreciate it, talking about football beyond the FPL stuff. Had a lot of questions for that. I really appreciate all of it. And yeah, I mean, approaching the actual games now. In 10 minutes. No, not even that. In 2 minutes, we're gonna have the lineup for Wolves Chelsea. Make that 1 minute now. We need to sign Hossam Alra. I agree, JR. But he is a creative player and he's a fantastic dribbler, but people need to realise, I don't think just signing him would solve all the creative issues. But if he can add goals from midfield, add that to his game because, he does score a few, but, he doesn't score consistently like Bruno. If he could add that to his game as well, then he would be a fantastic signing and he could make a huge difference. But I think maybe 2 creative midfielders. And Houssem Aouar, I kind of rate him more for his technical ability, how he glides on the ball rather than his assists or his chance creation and his finishing. But he's a class player. Of course, he'd make a huge difference. Even Buendia, I know that sounds a bit stupid, but when he was at Norwich, he was one of the most creative players in the league and he was doing so well in such a poor team, bottom place Norwich. So, yeah, I think players like that, Szoboszlai, although I think he's going RB Leipzig, there's a lot of players out there. But, yeah, I think 2 creative midfielders is a must. In January, obviously, being realistic, we have to sign one top quality one. Who it's going to be, I'm not too sure. Martinez, Creswell, Konsa, Robbo, Chilwell, Salah, KDB, Bruno, Grealish, Bamford, Welbeck, DCL. Oh my god, I just got a reminder to basically take a break, so it cut off. Welbeck, DCL. Which 11 would you start? Bit confused about Welbeck. Well, the deadline's already passed, so you can't make any changes now. But unless you're talking about game week 14. But I mean, to be fair, we could wait for that. But looking at it purely just from a player point of view, I would probably bench Welbeck, if I'm being honest. So Martinez, Creswell, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I'd bench Welbeck, definitely, from those lot. Son and Kane won't do. Sell Salah, get KDB. Well, like I said, the deadline's already passed, and Salah's at home, he can still do really well, and he's a fantastic choice. I'm not going to be captaining KDB anyway. This would be the only week I would, and even then I've got Bruno, so yeah, I'm not too concerned about KDB. Is game week 18 the best time to use free hit? Not necessarily. There's going to be some big blank game weeks to come, I think, and that's when you could use a free hit. If not, maybe during a double game week. It's up to you, but from last season, I kind of used it in a sequence, all these chips, the bench boost, the free hit, the wild card, and it worked very well. It was like a domino effect, and they all linked to each other, and they all helped me, get the best possible outcome from each week. So, yeah, I wouldn't say game week 18 is necessarily the best game week. It could be, but there could be another one, so I would wait and see for that. Pulisic starts. Fair enough. Yeah, let's look at the lineup. Let's look at the lineups. Yeah. Chelsea versus Wolves. Let's look at this lineup. Hopefully it's on Google. Okay, so Rui Patricio, Cody, Bolly, Saiss is playing. There we go. Kilman benched yet again. Semedo, Dendoncker, Ruben Neves, Marçal, Podence, Fabio Silva, Pedro Neto, and then Werner, Giroud, Pulisic, pretty decent. Mount, Kante, Havertz, Reece James, Zuma, Thiago Silva, Chilwell, Mendy. Yeah, that's a pretty strong team, from both of them. But yeah, I would back Chelsea to win this. But you never know. And Havertz it looks like he's going to play in a central position, which is obviously his best. When he's playing on the wing, it limits his abilities even further. And he's been pretty poor so far, but very young. He could still do well. Would you take Buendia? I would, but not just Buendia. That's the point. I would, if we got Buendia, I would still want a Houssem Aouar or another top quality creative player. Because if you look at years gone by, at the point when we rejected Fabregas before he went Chelsea, we had too many creative players. We had Rosicky, Ozil, Wilshere, Ramsey, Cazorla. We had so many creative players, and now we have none. So I think it's very important to get at least 2 and start to build more of a creative culture at the club. But then, you look at the other side of it. Smith Rowe is a decent youngster, but I don't think he's ready for Premier League football yet, and he is injury prone, but I would take Buendia. I will wildcard next week and have Bruno, KDB, Salah, Grealish and Son and downgrade all players. Fair enough, but make sure that you still have a good attack and defence. It's very important to have a balanced team rather than just big hitters, but obviously the midfield looks very good. Arsenal had the chance to sign Benrahma, but they didn't. Makes you question their recruitment policy. Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, I would have rather had Benrahma than Willian, to be honest, and I'm not saying Willian's a bad player. He is a bit of a scapegoat, but last few games, not been too bad. But let's be real. I never wanted Willian. I never rated him that much as a player. And Benrahma would be much better in the long term regardless. So definitely, the recruitment is not good enough. Although Thomas and Gabriel are, very good players. A lot of them. Cedric, I would start him now because of Bellerin's poor form. But, a lot of these signings you have to question. David Luiz contract extension. You look at the likes of Mustafi, Xhaka, who got signed when you could have got Van Dijk and Kante. It's laughable, really, but it is what it is. And it's years of ineptitude from the board and the hierarchy that they set up, which has put us in this mess. Beyond the manager making mistakes, and of course he's making them, and beyond these players being, just pathetic, really, at times. Chelsea lineup, yeah, thank you at all. I was literally had it just on screen here. It's a very good lineup from Chelsea, and all our main Chelsea players are playing, really. I mean, let's look at the benches. Jorginho, Tammy Abraham, Kovacic, Gilmour, Azpilicueta, Rudiger, Kepa, and Jorginho. And then you have, these lot from Wolves. Kilman, Traore on the bench. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. There we go. I hope Giroud gets huge points. What a differential this will be. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, good luck. Hopefully he does well for you, but hopefully he doesn't. Hopefully Chelsea don't win, but keep the clean sheet and Zuma gets some points. Or if not, Zuma scores, and there we go. But Giroud, he's a bit of a weird one, isn't he? He's world class on his day, very wasteful on others, and I would know that. Seeing him for years and backing him through all the times that he was getting a lot of stick, being called a donkey and lamppost. But it is what it is. So going through these last few questions before wrapping up. Feel like shite for not getting KDB in. Yeah, well, I mean, just to make you feel better, here you go. I don't have him in. And if he starts, of course, it's going to be very nerve-wracking. But, would you rather have him over Bruno, Son, Kane, Salah in the long term? I wouldn't, personally. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And thank you at all for joining in. I mean, you've been waiting for a long time. Thank you to the 53 people who have been here for the whole time. I really appreciate it. Talking about football and FPL, really appreciate it. Blues FPL says, come on Chelsea. Fair enough. And let's see where Wolves are on the table, actually, because I'm not taking the piss, by the way, at all, because I know, obviously we are where we are. But let's look at the Premier League table. Because, I don't think you've beaten a team above 10th so far this season. Wolves are 13th, and you do face Arsenal next. So, I would, or in 2 game weeks' time. So, I would think that you'd win these lot. But Chelsea, I think a lot of people have been giving them stick for that they haven't beaten, teams in the top 10. But I think Chelsea are, probably my favourite to get 4th or 3rd. I think they're going to do well this season. But it's a long season to go. I mean, look how tight things are at the moment. Hopefully Liverpool beat Tottenham for the good of mankind. We'll have to wait and see, though. And just the league's so interesting. If only we were good. Oh my God. Let's look away. Let's close the table. Didn't want to get them out. Yeah, exactly, Charlie. I'm in the exact same position. It's just hard to get them out for the long term. They might be good for a good, fixture or two to captain, but ultimately KDB I don't think is a better asset at the moment than those that we just mentioned. Stop it, Dylan. We should have beat Spurs. Liverpool were at full strength. So, well, no, that's what I mean. I'm not taking the piss anyway, but I was just saying a lot of people are, using that against Chelsea, but you have to beat them at the end of the day. And I would rather be in Chelsea's position where Lampard gets backed by the board with £200 million worth of investment, quality players like Ziyech coming in, than signing only 1 or 2 good players and then, Willian. But yeah, that's something different. Good luck to you at all, and see you for the next stream. Appreciate you being here. What are your thoughts on the double game weeks for game week 19? Well, unfortunately, the app won't load, so I won't be able to tell too much, but West Ham having a double game week for game week 19. Very, very interesting. What are the 2 games in that game week? I'm not even too sure, but that is a bit of a weird one. Jamie, I've got Foden for today. Good choice. If he starts, he's a good choice, but I don't know about Foden, man. Like, he's too hit and miss. And there you go. Look, the site just automatically. Oh, great. When did I click podcast? Oh, great. It's being updated now. But it is what it is. But yeah, thank you to everyone who's tuned in, and smash the like button. It really helps out the channel, and subscribe if you're new. We're trying to get to 2,000 subscribers, and I'm going to be reading out all of your comments as I've been doing for the last hour and a half before wrapping up. But yeah, there you go. I can't even make changes or see the double game weeks and stuff, but that's something I'm going to be talking about very soon, because it's good to prepare. But obviously, don't worry about the game weeks too much as of yet. So let's go through this. True. I hope Arsenal start playing well again. I feel bad. Well, to be fair, you're a Chelsea fan, so you're probably enjoying it a bit. But I mean, it's just an awful situation to be in. Chelsea were in something similar after winning the league, which shows. And even with Mourinho, who's obviously a good manager, it can happen to anyone. But it's this is as bad as it has been for Arsenal. And anytime we reach rock bottom, it seems like we do it again. But hopefully we do. we do kick things around. Hi Atul, remember me? Oh yeah, Ail as well. Always or Ali. I don't know how to call you, but yeah. Do you have Twitter? Yes, Corey. As you can see on screen, I have Twitter. Follow me there for all the latest updates, and I do post there saying when I'm going to stream, and I also retweet some news, about injuries and stuff like that. And on Instagram, you can follow me, and you can message me on both platforms. And if you have a picture of your team or something, or you want to discuss or ask a question or whatever, you can feel free to do so, and I will answer. So yeah. Love your streams, dude. So substantive. Thank you, Christian. I am losing my voice at the moment. Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone who has been here. And Atul and Ali. Good combination there. West Ham have Burnley and West Ham. West Ham have Burnley and West Brom. That's a very good double game week. There you go. So to be fair, for those kind of double game weeks, it is understandable. Even the likes of Bowen and Fornals, who I've kind of talked down. But yeah, maybe it's worth looking at getting a West Ham asset or two. But personally, I wouldn't triple up on them. I wouldn't get too excited about the double game week. But there's a good fixtures. West Ham can do very well. But then again, remember, West Ham are very inconsistent. They could beat, a team you don't expect and then lose to a team that you expect them to beat. So I played Matip and Lamptey over Adams this week. Jurgen Klopp hinting he could maybe Matip make it for 0-0 fixture. Yeah, fair enough. That's true. And Matip, I mean, he had a little bit of a knock against Fulham. That's why he came off. I thought it was a bit of a tactical change only, but we'll have to wait and see. Yep, with Mourinho, I think we got 10th that season. Yeah, you were 15th, 16th or something in December. I think you lost to Leicester, who ended up obviously winning the league. And then you got sacked. And then I think you had... Rafa Benitez was but a few years before. So you had Gus Hiddink. And then, you finished around 10th. I mean, it is what it is. Every club goes through periods like this. Check Ben Krelling on Twitter. He has the double game week. Exactly, as I said before. And even in videos last season, I always point to him in terms of spreadsheets and in terms of, preparing for double game weeks and free hits. He's the guy to go to. So yeah, Ben Krelling on Twitter is a very good source. Must say, your like tweets are phenomenal. I mean, obviously you can see the bias there, but I mean, you know what? It is what it is. I mean, on Twitter, I do like quite a lot of stuff. I do. Definitely a genuine YouTuber. Thank you, Dylan. Namesake, thank you very much. Hello, shall I put Vardy or Kane in? Abu Bakr, thank you for your question, but if this is for game week 13, so today, the deadline has passed. So if it's for this game week, I would say Vardy is the better option. But overall, for game week 14, if you have Vardy, I would get rid of him for Kane and just keep Kane, especially with the fixture swing around, game week 16. So yeah, that's what I would say. But thank you for everyone for your questions. If you have any more, leave them down in the comment section below. Or if not, like I said, follow me on Twitter and Instagram and send all your questions there. And, it doesn't have to be questions, it can be discussion and all of that. But I really appreciate all this discussion. Thank you, Abu Bakr, for your question. This is for next week, you say. Do I get Torres, Mount Foden and Bamford for a -4 or keep Brewster and get Rashford without point hit? I did Rashford move, is it right? I wouldn't say it's wrong. I mean, he's got good fixtures coming up. But in the long term, as I keep on saying, Rashford to Son is something you'd want to do. And do I get Torres, Mount Foden and Bamford for a -4? I don't like Brewster, and him to Bamford is obviously an upgrade. But going from Rashford to Torres, like I said, Torres isn't, a consistent starter. He's got 1 goal, 1 assist this season. Then you have Mount. He's a decent option for now, but I mean, I'm not too keen on him. And then you look at Foden. So I would try to look elsewhere, maybe even Bowen if you can. And Bamford, you could do that. Yeah, Pulisic is back. He's in the starting lineup. But the problem with him is he's hit and miss. He can get injured from any time. So I'm personally staying away. But of course, if he starts, he can be very, very good. He's a good player. It's just a shame he's so injury prone. But thank you everyone who's been watching. And like I said, just leave all your remaining comments in the comment section. I will get back to every single one of you as I have done for the past hour and a half. And good luck for Game Week 13. Good luck for the rest of the season. And enjoy the football. And it's going to be every few days or so. And I'll try to be posting previews and live streams every single week. But until next time, and all